sustainability side, nothing is left. Okay? Cool.
Thank you, Jana. We're almost here, everyone. All right. Yeah, it's been great start for the seminar. Interesting speakers and topics, and we carry on from there. Inclusion and anti-racism in sports, findings from Finland. Anni Reuter, tervetuloa lavalle. Welcome on board. Anni.
Hello everybody, so my name is Anni Reuter and I'm from the University of Helsinki, and today I'm going to represent quite a new study I've been doing. Actually, I would like to share you, there's a new book like Urheilun Murros. It's about great change in the sports. So you can look about it. It came out this year, and there's one article that's mine. So you can look also that. I'm going to mainly talk about my article, which is about this anti-racism in the sports, and also how it's described in the media. And also a little bit about inclusion. Actually, I'm studying at the moment more about inclusion. I'm looking at statistical data, but those results are not so ready. So, but I can reveal something what we have found out. So, here's a little bit about me. So I'm a sociologist, and I'm from the University of Helsinki, and I've done quite a lot about immigration and integration and these kind of issues. And I have been specialized in minorities, such as Ingrian Finns, and also Russians and Estonians in Finland. But then we have also other kind of studies. And I have done media studies, historical studies, qualitative interviews, and these quantitative, so all kind of studies. So, and here I show you some historical background, also about sports. One thing what I think is interesting is that in Finland many sport actors have been narrating the good story of sports. So because of this good story of sports that is mainly positive, it can be sometimes it's difficult to talk about the bad sides or negative, what negative have been happening also in the sports. Of course, in all fields there are good and negative sides, but somehow these positive sides is often talked about. So the discussion of values at the top of sports has been little bit superficial, has been said in the previous studies. And this discussion has mostly preserved the old, it hasn't addressed so much about the problems. and this discussion hasn't reformed so much about sports. But as Toby was talking, I think there's also a lot going on in the sports, and it's changing now quite rapidly. And there's these discussions are then becoming more and more in the sports also. And then if you look at the sports like historically, also sports have a great role in building a Finnish society. And even before the war, sports have used to kind of getting to having kind of these exercises and doing Finnish baseball. It was used first to get ready for the war against Russia. So this is kind of historical background, little bit. And then today I'm mostly talking about anti-racism and racism, and there has been some racism scandals before, for example in basketball in Joensuu in 1996. So in some sports these issues have been talked quite long time already, like in basketball. But some other sports, they are like coming very recently, it seems at least. So, for example, in ice hockey, this is a new phenomenon to talk about these difficult questions about racism. And then there has been programs against racism, for example in football, and this red card for racism also was quite recently. And then there has been studies about this inclusion through sports, what comes to minorities. But many of these studies are quite old. There hasn't been so much about new studies in Finland. And other countries, they have been more about these issues. But Tuomas Tjärkkäus have been studying this issue in 50 years ago, and he highlighted inclusion and the potential of sports in inclusion. And he found out, for example, that among the immigrants, summer sports, especially football, was popular, but not so much about winter sports. But already then it was discussed also about how women and men also had different kind of possibilities among the immigrant groups or youth with immigrant backgrounds to join the sports. So he found out that immigrant women were underrepresented at the top management, but then also they were taking less part. And actually what we found out is new material about last year. So this was going on even today. So that it was quite interesting that actually boys with immigrant backgrounds are joining at the same level than Finnish-speaking boys and Finnish-speaking girls. But then these immigrant background girls were taking much less. They were not sporting that much. So there was kind of this imbalance between immigrant girls and boys in our statistical data. And then what we looked a little bit about the statistical data was also that these sports activities actually helped young people and immigrants to have been included in the social networks, for example, and also about getting a job and getting interested in the labor market. So that was quite interesting. And this was stronger actually among immigrant backgrounds than those who took up sports were even more interested in this labor market inclusion. So I think it seems to work in this way quite well. But some other fields, Finnish and Swedish speakers were having more, but it was kind of, they had more from the sports. They gained for more like friends and this kind of things from sports. So there's something that don't work really equally there. But we are now working through this new material and writing an article also about that. Then there are some figures that are not so positive about the sport. So half of the young people belong to the ethnic minorities inexperienced inappropriate treatment in sports. So this is a big figure. So every second person, young people that had an immigrant background have some problem in the sport. So there's something to do better here. And even 12% experienced a lot of physical violence, and 15% a lot of sexual harassment. And this may be one reason why people are not taking part in these sports. So there were quite many dropping those that have these difficult experiences. And then some of these results are not so new. So I hope we are getting to better results than later. But multicultural athletes experience often mistreatment and racism in the sport, especially in matches, not at home, by opposing players or by audience, and even by coaches. So coaches also should be careful not to be have some racism in their coaching. And this mistreatment was more common against dark-skinned players, and even against Russian-speaking players. And then one thing that can be interesting also, that is good to look that there's not going to be like ethnic group inside the teams. So look a little bit that these clubs don't have like very tight ethnic subgroups there inside the teams. Then I was analyzing the Finnish leading medias, like Helsinki Sanomat and Yle, the broadcasting company. And I looked what kind of discussion there was about integration and racism and anti-racism in the media. And there was actually quite a lot. And interestingly, this discussion was going up. So there wasn't hardly anything like over 10 years ago, but about this discussion and articles were getting more and more, especially the discussion about racism. This integration discussion actually went down. So it was most talked about when this Tuomas Sakkeus did his studies. So here you can see how the articles about racism increased. And this drop I think is about pandemic. So I think it was increasing the discussion quite a lot. And also one thing that was interesting, this racism discussion about sports, it was all about team sports. Basketball, football, and ice hockey. Only some cases were about some individual sports. Last year there was a little bit more, but during these years it was about the team sports. And another thing was that it was mostly about male athletes, not so much about girls and women, and also about top level. So I think this happened also in other places, but those was more discussed about was about male athletes in top level. But they often say that they faced a lot of racism when they were young. So I think there's going on also this racism when athletes are younger. Then there's a little bit about this mediation, how media can affect these issues. So that media's role have been increasing, and also that this mediation increased media's role can work toward inclusion. And also funding, as many knows in sports, and also about anti-racism. As was Tommy saying, so this media can work against racism also. For example, making racist structures visible, address racism, showing some cases of racism, and then spark discussion. And also contribute to the implementation of countermeasures, what to do about these things. So there was quite a lot of going on at the media. Yes, and then I took also this, that we talk about the same thing. So what is racism? Racism refers to prejudices, discrimination and violence against people based on their race or ethnicity. And also in Finland there's a kind of norm of whiteness which causes the non-white Finns are often seen as others. So we are so used to that everybody looks white, but this is not the case anymore. A lot of people are coming from other countries and look different, so. But we have still kind of this norm of whiteness, probably changing also a little bit when the generations are being changed. And also there's kind of narrow definitions of Finnishness, and this creates the basis for racism. For example, some athletes talk that when they are succeeding, they are like Finns, but then when they have something bad going on, that they are like immigrants. So this is also one thing. So this Finnishness can also change about this when the sports person is succeeding. And then also Finns have prejudices against some ethnic groups. For example, historically we have prejudice against Russians, for example, and other groups also. And this also can change also about now and about the situation in Russia, for example. And then I showed some results, and there was quite a lot of discussion about basketball, football, and ice hockey. And in basketball, it seems that these racist cases described in the media, at least, happened mostly in the past or abroad in Estonia. So in basketball, there wasn't kind of big scandals in Finland. That it seems that they were more like historical, these problems. And then there was said in media that racism is not tolerated in contemporary Finnish basketball. But there was racism outside games in the Finnish society, which affected then the games and the players. And then also this Magdalena was also talking about the importance that women athletes also could be role models and going to, for example, at the schools to tell more about to join. And she told that she looked like me, and I understood that I could represent Finland in basketball. So in some sports may look also very white, so also this can be good that there are different kind of role models that can take young people to take part in the sports and support them there. And also in basketball there was quite long generations compared to some other sports, that there were like third generations of basketball players, like Sean Huff and his father Leon were well-known basketball players already in the 70s. And then there was like the importance of these role models, and there was in media was all about this documentary Rooted in Finland, which was quite interesting that it described the racism in USA and how it was actually a little better in Finland. Then in football, there were quite many cases in the football. So there were a lot of racist incidents in the football, but also a lot of these anti-racist efforts. About Tim Squire and others were talking against racism. But then there was also kind of worrying things. For example, Glenn Kamara said that actually racism is rising at sports now, but difficult to say. And it was mostly against dark-skinned players, but also against dark-skinned referees. So also referees were quite, they were faced also by racism. So there were well-known players and referees active in this anti-racism. Also, this Tim Sparrow mentioned before, but also El Amara was very, very important in this talk about anti-racism, and also about how to work against racism in the fields and how to get this racism then counted and how to stop it. And but then it was interesting that in football there was a lot of these players and referees talking, but not at the top level. So not like the leaders of the football. They were not talking actually so much. So there was kind of this problem with that they felt that these players and referees, they were like a little bit like left alone with this problem. So the structure of football or other sports, the structural thing didn't support the fight against the racism. So there's a kind of need of deeper discussion about the structural racism, how this affects like the whole system. And also not only the players, men players, but then it was also quite deeply that women usually were excluded from the discussion completely. So there was only a few women in this discussion. So I think women should be also taking more part in this, or should be asked more about this. Also, it seems a little bit that women players are not, they don't have so much problems about racism. So, for example, Finnish women football is more, there isn't so much hooliganism or these kind of problems than men have. But anyway, women should be also taking part in this discussion. There was some exception, for example, this hijab scandal. So there was some exceptions. And so players and referees called for more support from the leaders. And also that leaders should not only talk when it's a fancy happening going on, but when actually something happens in a racist case. So like then there's something real happening, not only in the opening of the sport game or something like that. Then, but I think football have very good effort also to work against racism. But then ice hockey was quite different because, as Tommy already told, they had this scandal about this junior player, and they claimed that there wasn't any racism, and actually this boy and his team was punished actually, and not the racist, the league that had the racism, who did the racist act. So it was kind of, it seemed that ice hockey tried to hide this problem first, and then also they gave them a penalty to the victims, which is quite ordinary thing to do. So the federation used a strategy of silence and also hired a law firm. But they tried to silence the topic, but it gets even much bigger and bigger all the time, and it took almost a year it was in the media. So this is not a very good strategy to work against good reputation, or how to get like players in your team, because ice hockey gets very bad reputation also about this. They also didn't mind about the non-discrimination ombudsman statement that Ice Hockey Association actions were indirect discrimination. And in Helsinki Sanoma it was called the most racist sports in Finland. And even it was kind of bad smell from 1970s. So it was like very old-fashioned sports in that way, that it comes after the other. And also in this, in ice hockey there was only males in the media. But I think it seemed that this media affected the sports, and there was after strong media coverage, they tried to change what they have done. So they, after heated discussion, they collapsing reputation, and they have to also compensate the victims and asked for apology. Then they admitted that they haven't done enough against racism. And then they have also this work, officially they did these papers against racism, how to avoid racism in their fields. So this mediation also helps to work against racism. But I think these three sports are quite interesting that they are so different also. And it is kind of, it's going on in different kind of phases, these sports. Also, almost like in different kind of decades, this inclusion in these sports. But it's interesting that now also probably ice hockey needed this scandal to start to work also in their games toward inclusion. So, I'm not sure how much time I have, but there are some conclusions. So there was a rise of anti-racism and anti-racist mediatization in sports, in the media. There were great diverse faces in diverse sports, as was shown, great differences. And girls are born with immigrant backgrounds are still in the margins of the sports. Also, what comes to taking part in sports at the top level, and then about media discussion also. Many referees and players were active in anti-racism. It's very good that there are rules and role models in the sport because they have power to influence. The need of discussion seems to be great at the society and also about sports. And also it's important to discuss about these difficult topics. And then there's a great media pressure to support anti-racism and also interest in these sports clubs to do that. Then there's great, seems to be change from the speech to practice, which is important. How to have this in practice, not only in speech. How to tackle racism in practice. And then this racism in our society influences sports, so that's natural also that there's, in sports there's racism, but it's also to acknowledge that sport is a very important channel also to discuss about this and also work against racism in the society. So many sport activists and sport persons and players have possibility also work, toward the greater society. So I think sports have it's a very important place in this way to work against racism and also people knowledge about these things. So I would like actually thank you. I'm not sure if I had so much time, but I would like to ask if you have any questions, please. Yeah.
You were talking about structural racism. Yeah. We can call it hidden racism as well. Yeah. How can we discover it? From your point of view, what is it? What kind of examples you would give us from hidden racism about the things that we don't even realize that are racist?
That's a good question and quite difficult also for me. But I think one thing is that we are so used to, for example, that like all speakers are white, or that we have like there's some kind of what we think that certain people that look something are like, or the structural also that it seems to be that it's difficult to go to the top level of the organization, for example. I think that's maybe one structural problem, that in sports organizations there isn't probably so many immigrants at the top now. But I think they are, that's probably one. And also, I don't know if that's also that it may be difficult to join the clubs because not probably about what ethnic group you are coming from, but it can be also so expensive, for example. So, families don't have a car, or kind of this kind of practical also. But okay, structures are a little bit complicated, but yeah, if there's some ideas about this structural, but it was discussed at the media actually, that many talk about that it's kind of hidden also, this probably who are chosen to some roles or something like that. I don't know.
Accessibility, that's what we should consider as club workers and sports persons. Okay, hey, you had a lot of good findings from the national media, but what about the social media? What kind of trends can you see of racism in sport within social media?
Actually, I wasn't looking so much about social media, but many of these topics were first at the social media, and then then this more classical media took up those discussion. There were, I think there was some harassment things were first at the social media, or some sport athletes told first about these problems in their social media sites, what they have their own, and then they were taking up. So I think, and also if you look at the, for example, if there's have been a game, for example, a football game, so there was some persons that thought that this discussion about when they were good at the game, then it wasn't a problem to be an immigrant. But if it didn't went so well, so if you go some social media platform and look at the comments, they can be quite bad. If this person is not like typical Finn somehow, so they can be worse. This is one point, I think. Yeah. But social media can also give people that are racist kind of voice, also, which is not always so good. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Question about the case Lahti. What do you think about, as a researcher, what is the reason why this kind of situation could happen? Because I think the people, the coaches, and the parents who were there, they can recognize the situation when it's happening there. So my question is it about the morality of people, why they let these kind of things happen, or is it like lack of courage?
Good question. Yeah, I think you were referring. Yeah.
This pelican. I don't know. I don't have the real question because I wasn't there, and but it seems that these kind of happenings have been so normalized in these ice hockey games that there was so much shouting and this kind of words used before, and then it was said that they didn't want to stop the game, that it was most important to have the game going on, and they didn't have the time to interfere this racist thing. So I think that was also kind of bad reason not to stop it. And then they were saying that it was the most important was about the game going on, which is also not so good explanation, of course not. But I think they have now. I hope they have now better choices to how to interfere it, and probably the referees didn't interfere it as they should have done. So probably they would need some education, those referees. Yeah. But there's probably many explanations, but here are some what I think. But yeah, can be also some others. And also, of course, the ethical thing is that they should have taken up this ethical because it was unethical, and so they should have taken it up and also work then inside the ice hockey properly, and not like try to hide it and forget the thing. So, but luckily media took up the case, so probably it's getting better.
Yeah, it was a good question. I've been involved in children's sports quite a lot as well, and I think when you see racism, especially in games, it often comes due to referees' decision. And very often those are young people as well. And that's why I think that us as club activists or parents, we should be really alert and give full support for referees and other people who are in that situation. Because it's not that easy to stop the game if you're 15 years old and you're the referee and you're responsible of that whole event. So I think the support from our side is super important. Yeah, that was just my own experience and opinion. Any other questions? Yeah, okay. Jana.
Thank you.
We are ready. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anni. Really, really important topic. And I really like to think that media has power, and media has really kind of influenced and been a change maker here, so that the sports can actually change. And from personal experience, I know they are changing their ways. Yes. Okay, thank you, everybody. I hope you are as inspired as me. It's been a great day, truly. And for those of you who are going home, thank you for the day. For those of you who are actually coming back tomorrow, welcome. You'll be inspired also tomorrow. And for those who are staying for the evening, the saunas are opening in a half an hour. They will be open 1 hour. One sauna for ladies, one sauna for guys. You know, choose your one. And 7:30 we will have dinner at Ranta Magazine, which is just next to the saunas downstairs there. So if you have any questions, you can ask me. Sana is also here wearing the hoodie. Viola is there also wearing our t-shirt, so you know who to ask if you need anything. Let's continue these discussions here and also online and wherever we can.
Thank you. Yeah, that's about it from my part from today. See you tomorrow morning, 9:15. We meet here, right? And then we're gonna divide to groups. Oh, actually, yeah, we start from auditorium. Yeah, okay, brilliant. Thank you.